Good morning, everybody, and welcome to CEO Chat. Last time I checked, my name was Alcini.
I'm still Joe Osman.
We have a terrific guest today. Her name is TSteege, and Transformation Strategies is the name of your company. I know that. Wow, we have great subject. I mean, that whole subject of organizational change and change management comes up a lot on CEO Chat, most of the time from people who are having problems with it. I mean, a lot of the people who watch our program are frustrated sometimes that they're not getting the level of performance they'd like to see from the people who work for them. And they feel as though maybe if they just ordered it or commanded it harder, they would get it. You're here to tell everybody that's not the way to go. Isn't that right, Tricia?
Yes, my whole passion is around helping create environments where people can really excel in their potential and be able to give back and live meaningful lives at work. So
that is a big deal. It sounds like magic. I mean, all of a sudden, magically, something magical happens and the company really starts to move forward and the people are totally committed to it. That means that the misconception people have is that somehow you're a magician and that you come into an organization and do a magic act.
yeah,
But there's a science to this, isn't there?
I don't come in with a prescriptive, this is what you need to do. Of course, when I'm working with clients that have really large transformations they're working on, they need to get large groups of people really going into the same direction, mindset, and being able to understand what that future looks like. And so when I go in, I don't go in with a script pad. I have guidelines. There's always, things that we know typically happen at certain times. But the real power comes when people that are being, that you need to engage and adopt whatever kind of change are helping co-create their own futures together. So,
Great.
Can you work with any size organization?
yes, because we're all human beings and we all bring the same stuff with us into work, whatever's going on in work or outside of our work, all that same kind of issue comes into work.
Good, good.
And so most of the time I'm working with the human issues, like much more than the specific. Of course they're working usually when my clients are implementing, they're implementing maybe either a new process, a new technology.
Trying to get people to adopt it and accept
a
it.
whole new business model and shifting, so it involves organizational redesign and new structures and things like that.
And I know most people think in terms of making profit, earning money, accelerating performance in a way that you could measure in dollars and cents. You've done an awful lot of work, though, with nonprofit organizations, too.
I've done work with nonprofits. I will share with you kind of it was a seminal moment in my career, and I think everybody will be able to.
Hang on one second. We have pictures, I think, for 911. Maybe we can start bringing those up. You can talk to that.
Good.
But this 911 recovery was part of what you do. I think
Right.
I remember you telling me you worked with a group. And this, by the way, also demonstrates you work in groups of fairly large sizes.
Yes. So in May of 2002, the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation held a community meeting. We had about 5,000 people gathered. So we had 500 tables of 10 each. And the intent of the meeting was to help co-create what was going to be happening on the rebuilding of the site.
Okay.
Good.
So it was an open seating, 5,000 people come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was a facilitator at one of the tables, not knowing at all what to expect. So at my table I had friends of people that had passed, business leaders, union leaders, every kind of composition.
Every possible interest.
Right.
In
All having their own agendas about what they wanted to see happen. Some very business oriented, obviously some very passionate about we can't rebuild on the site. This is a sacred site.
Right.
And we began through a series of questions asking different things about what you would like to see happen and things like that. And through the use of technology, we were able to shift people into one heart, one mind.
That's pretty
which
impressive.
Is pretty powerful.
Sure.
Well, that is, and how many people were in? There were 5,000 people in that room.
Yes.
So that is a big. But if you shift the conversation from what am I going to get out of this to what are we all going to accomplish with
We're
this?
going to co-create together.
What are we co-creating? Then all of a sudden, people's attitudes shift from from the me part of it to the we part of it.
That's part of it.
That's the
other
magic.
thing is and that is the magic, because they feel like they have a little bit more control and they have helped create what their futures look like. And that's basically what the premise of the work that I do is. as human beings, we all want to control. Because we don't sometimes trust ourselves, we don't trust our leaders, we don't trust the process, so we try and control what's going on, and normally change puts people into a feeling of, I don't have control. This is the way that I do the work in the organization, with the organizations, it's a way of allowing people to feel like they have control over what their future is going to be.
That's important, a voice in what is going to happen.
That's really what you're talking
And
about, right?
clients will bring me in often when they need to get large groups of people on the same page to go towards the same vision, and they're really struggling with why isn't this happening? And so I'll work with them to allow, what we do is we take microcosm groups within the organization, and they co-create together what that looks like, the strategies.
Great. There is magic in every human being. The challenge for a leader is to try to learn the skills it takes to get that magic out and put it to work. Not necessarily to line your pockets, but to make the world a better place, which is what the company really ought to be about. People want to participate in that kind of mission. And that's really what you do, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
People want to be working at places that have meaning for them. We all bring our own values to work, and we usually align with a company that feels we go to work for companies that feel very aligned with our values. And this is getting even more and more for the younger generation coming in. They're really looking for cultures and organizations that are transforming the world.
Right.
And so it's really important to allow the space for them to feel like they can contribute to creating what that future looks like. And then the end result is just this feeling of magic. But change management in and of itself is not magic. It just feels like
It just feels like it. I mean, the results feel like magic, but there's a way to make it
Yes.
predictable and reliable. There's a way to get it to happen, and that's the value that you add in this whole process.
Right.
Great. So what does it feel like to facilitate change management over 8 hours for a group of 5,000 people?
I'll tell you what, that was a really powerful day. When, people were sitting down, and some women were already crying, I had union people at my table already screaming when they sat down at the table. And it really is an art form. I mean, there are skills around facilitating, but also, too, I believe that facilitating in general, to some degree is an artistic kind of form. You have to be able to read groups really well. You have to be able to allow people not to dominate conversations and allow space. At the end of the day, most people just want to have some kind of voice. And we had to allow people to share what they really needed and wanted to see out of the day, and allow that emotion, which oftentimes people get a little concerned about emotion because emotions are very intense, and most people don't are challenged with how to deal with it. I've seen lots of leaders, organizations, and my clients struggle with the emotional piece, but the reality is, even our leaders have emotions too.
Sure,
so
they do.
We have to come to a place in organizations where we allow that to be expressed, not dominate, but balance.
But balance that out. I mean, how people feel about the work they do is where they get all their intrinsic motivation to do that work. So trying to suppress that or manage that causes it
to come out somehow.
It will.
Come out in resistance. It'll come out in rebellion. You'll see passive because that emotion is actually driving.
You have to be a good listener, too.
Yes. So back to your point about what happened that day, that only happened because we used technology. So what was happening was we were asking questions, dialoguing at the table, and then the group would come up at the table with a consolidated answer, which we would enter into. We each had like mainframe monitors. And there was a group up front that was basically consolidating all of the data from all of this, each 500 tables, and coming up with themes. The power was when the questions were shared back and what people were saying, they could see that mostly everybody else in the room was feeling the same way.
the same way that they were.
That's where the shift started happening for people.
Good.
Like, wow, everybody's feeling that way, and they're acknowledging it out.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Okay. And so you normally start with, let's say, it could be the head of a company,
right.
but it could also be a divisional leader,
Yes.
vice president, or a manager of a department.
Right.
And communication skills, I guess, are part of what you work on.
Yes, but really, I'm focused on managing change. I use, the thing that's kind of adds to what I bring to the table is, I'm not just there to help manage people through the transition. A lot of people get confused about what change management means. And they get it confused with organizational development. So if you think about organizational development, it's really looking at the whole system and what's happening in each part of the system. The change management process is really about helping people transition through whatever change is going on.
Okay.
When I go into a company to help them, I'm looking at it from a systemic point of view. I have been brought into companies to help them implement certain technologies, and it's specific to, we need people to use this particular technology. Then it's a very, what I'll call tactical kind of, we need to do this, we need to do an assessment, we need to do a communications plan, we need to do a training plan, we need to find out who all the stakeholders that are impacted. I mean, it's very tactical kind of. The other part of the majority of the work that I do is much more on the strategic change, where we're looking to how we align departments across. How do we get everybody in the organization on the same page, looking towards the same vision together? And that's where I talked about earlier, the microcosms, how we gather. We're talking about what we call as whole scale methodology, where we're looking at the whole system.
The whole system.
Moving in one direction.
Digital transformation. A lot of stores are shifting from the typical find merchandise, go to the front, ring it up, to use your phone, scan it, and walk out with it.
Right.
That means you've got potentially hundreds of employees who work at the retail level who need to learn how to use all that, and they need to become good at it. They need to want to do that.
Well, and it's also, take it out of just the technical or logistical thing. It's a change in the way people are buying.
Right.
So it then becomes a change in the way that you relate to somebody while they're selling. You know, all of this is automated, becoming much more automated. But if you're a company that's looking to retain customer, build customer value, and retain employees, you know, you want to start looking at how you educate your employees or teach your employees to interact with people differently. And one of the concerns that I have in this world of technology today, we're losing our ability and skill to really know how to interact and have relationships.
Right.
And that is what makes companies run, basically, is relationships.
Relationships. You make a couple of points too. I read a recent LinkedIn article, and by the way, Trisha's the perfect person to connect with on LinkedIn. You talked about artificial intelligence. It's not about replacing people.
Right.
Talk about that.
How about augmented? A lot of people are concerned that artificial intelligence is going to replace their job. Employees are worried that artificial intelligence is going to replace their jobs. Leaders might be perceiving it as a way to, you know, take out labor costs from their organization.
Cut their costs.
Hopefully that they're not, but if you perceive that, if you look at artificial intelligence like it's augmenting the work, as an employee, what it allows, it creates a whole new opportunity for you as an employee to contribute on a much more strategic level. So the work that you've been doing tactically, filling out spreadsheets or, you know, doing data entry or whatever, all that will become automated. Maybe you shift now to start thinking about how do I start adding more value on a strategic, the things that machines can't replace today, the knowledge. It's a fascinating trend that we're seeing. And I'm just beginning to learn about it and dig into it, but it has huge change implications for organizations and the people working in it. You can reach me on my website at transformstrat.com. It's short for Transformation Strategies. My phone number at the office is 484-682-4925. Whether we do business or not, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. I'm sure it will be value add. I'm excited to be here today. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's
opportunity.
great having you, and it's an important subject, and hopefully people out there will recognize the importance of it and give you a call.